Alright, and welcome back to another Supercoach video. My name's Jackson, and we are going through the Week 3 team review. Sorry, it's come a couple of days this week. Spent Easter with the family. Did the long drive back today, so bear with me if I kind of stumble over my words and say a couple of things wrong. But yeah, overall, look, another really good week. We are now in the top 300, ranked 286 overall. Roughly 240 points behind the leader Crazy Frog, so in it with a chance of the overall, I guess. A couple of things happened this week which make me think I'm a little bit off the pace still, but hey, you never know. It's a long season, there's a lot still to come. I think the big lesson for me this week is to make sure you surround yourself with other good super coaches. It makes things so much easier. My initial thoughts on in the last video was to trade in Tex Walker for Phillips, and I was really umming and ahhing about that all week, even in the lead up to just before the Crows game. And having, George, Eno, and the rest of the Discord around, they backed me in to do the trade and put that through, and I think a few others jumped on board as well and paid off massively. So, big props. They kind of gave me the confidence to lock that in, and who knows if I didn't have George and his Discord, whether or not I would have done that. So if you're not talking with the best super coaches, you need to find ways to do it because it makes things so much easier. The Discord itself, George's Discord, has 4 of the top 10 leagues, I think 9 of the top 20. Crazy Frog, who's led the comp for the first 3 weeks, is in there. A bunch of other really high-placed individuals as well. I'm probably not even in the top 3 or 4. So yeah, let's jump in. There were definitely a few disappointments in the team, and someone is about to get a rocket because I'm very disappointed and very worried for not game day for my sake going forward. All right, and look, there are some difficult trades this week. I think it's going to be another tough week. I thought doing Tex last week was tough. I think this one's going to be tough too. Maybe it won't be that bad. We'll see. Alright, so last week's trades, as kind of mentioned a couple of times, were exactly the same as in last week's video, what I'd kind of outlined at the start. So Phillips to Tex, and then a rookie correction in Carl to Jordan. Both trades get big ticks for me, especially Tex. I mean, he's already made over 100k, and big score, and coming up against North this week, couldn't ask for more than that. I do think it's probably too late to get on him now, unless you see him as a top 6 to 10 forward from here, in which case you're still getting him at a discount and you're about to get probably one of his biggest games of the year. But I still saw him, I see him as a stepping stone, more likely than not. I think once you get to round 7 or 8 where he faces Port Adelaide and the Croms run gets quite hard, I think he's going to fall off around then. So I'm going to enjoy the ride for the next few weeks, but definitely I think I need to have an exit plan. Alright, so defense, let's run through it. Lloyd was great again. There's not, it's just Lloyd being Lloyd. Laird and Short both had kind of slightly down weeks, but overall they've been great so far. The concern with Short is that with Bashir Hooley kind of potentially coming back soon, that could impact his scoring negatively, which maybe makes him not as good of a pick, but we'll see how that goes. Ridley, I said it last week, I'll say it again, and look, everyone kind of knows by now, he's just amazing. I think he had 35 touches. He could have easily gone over 160, but the Essendon's win was such a blowout they actually rested him for the last 10 minutes of the game. Normally he just plays full 100% time on ground, but they actually took him off, gave him a rest, which, hopefully that helps. That 10 minutes helps for the rest of the year, but frustrating from a Supercoach perspective. He's pretty much a must-have. Essendon's played a close loss, a blowout win, and a blowout loss, and he's scored amazing in all of them, 125 low, 147 high of those 3. It really only seems that an injury or tagging, which I don't know, he's not the type of player you tag. Those are kind of the only 2 things that seem like they would really knock him back. But yeah, I'd back him as number 1 defender for the year from here, even over Lloyd. So if you can get him in, this is the week to do it. I think he's only going up in price from here on out. You're going to struggle to get him below 600k. 2 big problems in the back line for me is Young and Clark. Young, so before Young's injury, he was still a problem, and the reason for both of them is that just the role's not there. So Young got really heavily negatively affected by Wilson, and I'm a little bit frustrated at myself because I probably should have been able to predict that in the preseason and just didn't think about him coming back enough. But effectively, it just meant no kick-outs, worse role, getting less of the ball, and then getting injured at halftime, he made, I think, 1 or 2K this week, so didn't lose money, which is okay, but he's gone for 8 weeks. He has to be traded. That's really frustrating. And then Clark has not had a good role either. Definitely expected to be more behind the ball, but it's more instead like fat side wing, half forward role. It's a bit of a dead role, and his scoring has been saved 2 weeks in a row by goals, which, you know, is great. It's great that he's averaging 70, he's making a little bit of money, but he's going to cap out sooner rather than later, and I doubt he's still on my team come buys unless he gets a good score. I mean, they've got North in 2 weeks, and given how other teams have been scoring, maybe he gets like a 80 or 90 there, and that keeps him going long. But yeah, like, just not a great pick. Who knew that instead of Young and Clark, you wanted Cumming and Jiath, right? Like, just super coaches here, man. Crazy. Look, Cozzy didn't have a great game. He's at risk of being dropped, which is a little bit scary. And Highmore was obviously a bit of a surprise drop, just given how well he'd played. I'm hoping he comes back this week, especially given St Kilda's performance, but I'm not really sure how. Ryder, I think, reported to the club today. Marshall's completed VFL. They'll both be coming back soon. I know McKernan and Carlisle have to make way. Like, Carlisle on the ruck was weird. That did not work. And then, like, they've got Wood, who needs to go. They need to replace Gresham. So, like, you know, there's a couple of ins that they need to make. There's a couple of outs they need to make. And I'm just not sure, like, whether Highmore has a spot. But hopefully, just given the changes and the loss, he comes back in because he's got a lot of money to make. We just need to get games in him. Through the midfield, McRae is only a little bit of a 108. It's a little bit surprising just given the Dogs blowout win. Like, usually he doesn't go for the jugular like a Dunkley does, but usually he scores well in wins. And I think, like, this is one of those games where we see the Dogs point sharing kind of scare me or come to the surface. I mean, you had obviously Bruce with like 10 goals and a 170, but then you had Dunkley 132, McRae 108, Treloar 108, and then I think Keith or someone scored 100, and then everyone else below 100, including Daniel and Bont. And that's just surprising in a game where they win by that much, that you have so many of the premiums of the guns just kind of scraping 100. So a little bit scary, but yeah, I think McRae's still a really safe choice going forward. Oliver got tagged badly, didn't handle it well, kind of got out a little bit just with De Boer going down. He scored like pretty much all of his points, like well over 50, maybe even 60 points in the second half alone, once that De Boer was injured and kind of let Oliver run free. I mean, yeah, that's just not great. But non-owners must be licking their lips because they're going to get a really easy upgrade target in a couple of rounds when he starts to bottom out. So lucky you. Zach Merritt. Look, this is another disappointing one like Ridley. He's had the 4th lowest time on ground for Essendon, I think in the low 70s. He was also rested at the end. He played relatively bruise-free footy from what I saw. Like, it was 30 touches, all clean, goal assists, but wasn't much contested work in that. I think partly because it didn't need to be. You had, you know, Parish lifting the load and St Kilda kind of, you know, doing their witches hat impression, with the exception of Jack Steele, who was amazing, and I think he's probably going to be a must-have because he's carrying that team. I mean, he's at risk of being tagged a little bit more, but yeah. So look, Zach Merritt, this is like the type of game you kind of wanted to 130 to help buffer out some of those poor early scores, and just didn't get there. So I'm still a little bit worried about Zach, but believe he'll play 22 with Shield being out for 2 to 3 months. You got Caldwell out for another month. You know, maybe he has to go inside a little bit more. Which I hope is the case, because hopefully we'll then get those 130s out of him. That's going to help propel him to be a top 8 mid for the year. All right, finally, the Rocket. It's not Young. He doesn't get the Rocket. It's not Clark, and it's not Oliver. It is Josh Kelly. But it's not even Josh Kelly. It's Leon freaking Cameron. What the hell are you doing, dude? Kelly is the Rolls Royce of the AFL competition. When someone says he's the Rolls Royce, you know, the cherry on top, the cream, the thing that pushes them over the edge, Josh Kelly is the player that everyone thinks of because he is that player, just that extra bit of class that takes someone from a good team to a great team. And Leon Cameron has no clue what to do with him. He's never had something nice in his life because he's got Kelly and he's just ruining it. Like, he played him out of the forward 6 for the entire game. And this is zero. It's not just 0 CBAs, which he had, by the way, which is crazy. I don't know the last time he would have had 0 CBAs. He also wasn't starting on a wing, and you think maybe that's not so bad, given that, you know, GWS has this glut of amazing midfield talent. You've got Hopper, Cornelio, Green, for example, which was already getting played out of position. But what happened was you had Cornelio go down, You had Matt DeBoer go down. These are two of their starting midfielders, so you think people have got to get moved up. Someone's got to go into the centre. Someone's got to come up to the wings then to kind of fill up. And no, they were playing like a fourth game in O'Halloran. They were getting Ward midfield time, and Josh Kelly still spent the whole game at half forward. Like, how do you have one of the premier midfielders of the competition and not put him in your midfield, Leon Cameron? And then you wonder why you lose by 3 or 4 goals in this close game. How he got to 100 playing what is essentially the worst role in football for Supercoach scoring is beyond me. He should be pumping out 130s, 140s, 150s, and he's just not going to do it, and it's a failed pick, and it is so frustrating. Because there's no indication at all at any point in time, not through the preseason, not through interviews, whatever it may be, that Leon Cameron was going to try and kill Kelly's career in 2021. It's just... All I can hope is that they look at the tape this week, realise how dumb they are as a coaching group, and fix that mistake. I mean, and even the players are just awful. You've got Taranto winning the ball in the centre. He turns and kicks it, which turns over straight away, when you've got Kelly running by you on the outside. There were multiple plays last week where Kelly runs end-to-end, unmanned. He's completely open. He's burned off his defender, and he doesn't get used. Like... he must be invisible to them. They must hate him. I don't know what it is, but I'm glad I didn't record this video actually straight after, because the rant would have been much worse and would have been profanity filled, and probably wouldn't have been YouTube appropriate. Alright. Cameron, get it together, mate. Like, seriously. Alright, and then just on the midfield rooks, like, a little bit disappointed with scoring, like, down overall across the board. Goulden's not going to put out 130s every week. It is what it is. I missed a few points here, but, like, it is what it is. Like, it's fine. Rock's really interesting. Like, I took the Grundy captain. It turns out Gordon would have got me an extra point, but it is what it is. I think the most interesting thing this year is that Flynn R2, as well as like going both Gordon and Grundy, seems to have both panned out well so far. The interesting part is going to be like, which side breaks first? Does Flynn keep this great run up? He's got Grundy this week, or do you have Gordon and Grundy averaging 120, 130 again for the year? Wild. Touched on Dunkley, he was great. Touched on Tex, he was great. Looking forward to him playing North. Zeeble, apparently he's a premium for now because he's just taking so many kickouts. North being that bad, he's got a really safe floor. Maybe McDonald coming back and taking some of those kicks hurts him, but for now he's a premium, which is, I mean, Tex and Zeeble as like F2 and F3 is not something I could have ever imagined in the last 2 or 3 years. Impy's been really good as well. He seems like, potentially a keeper, or at least a last upgrade. He'll be someone you probably hold through to advise. Campbell, disappointing down week, but it's going to happen with rookies. He's got lots of money to make still, so I don't want to trade him out yet. Warner was great. I think he was rising star nom this week as well. So 3 swans in a row, which is just crazy. Rose got North, so he's probably a field option this week. And then Jones, people keep asking me if he's going to get dropped. He's not going to get dropped. All right, Essendon don't have any other forwards behind him. And I think it was Dunstall that pointed out, like, when you just put in the effort and the work rate that he has, which if you watch him off the ball, you'll see, like, the opportunities come. We got a little bit of that this week. A 63 will mean that he's going to make some money. Hopefully we can get him to 250k and make well over 100 grand on him. But yeah, we'll just see how that goes. It's definitely a slow burn F8 type deal. Alright, so then trades this week. So the obvious one is Young has to go. It's an 8-week hammy. There's nothing we can do about that. And the best rookie option here is Chapman for me. He scored like, I think, a 44 or 45, something like that, week 1. And then week 2, he actually wasn't on track for a great score. But as soon as Young went down, I think he got, 50 or 60 of his points since Young went down in the second quarter. So it looks like he's probably got some pretty good job security and probably some decent scoring potential, and he obviously had the pedigree beforehand. So that's a trade I like. We can get this off for now, just so the team looks a little bit nicer. And then I think this is like, so that's probably the easy choice. I think the difficult choice this week is then what you do with the other trade. So I could get rid of Clark now, and there's 2 defenders that I like. So Mills I like as an option, and I can't afford it. The other one would be Houston, who was a bit of a burn boy last year, but he's getting in combination of kickouts. He's playing in a team that's going to win a lot of games. there's some stuff to like about Houston. I need to watch more tape on him, to be perfectly honest. So this is like an option, and if I'm chasing overall, then getting Clark off for Houston could be like 35, 40 points a week right now, which is a pretty big deal. And, Houston's still underpriced a little bit as well. So, yes, I miss out on Clark's cash gen, but, I don't have to pay a higher price for Houston in the future either, which is pretty nice. I guess the only thing is Port does have a somewhat difficult run coming up, which, depending on how you look at it, for someone playing down defense and taking kickouts, maybe a harder run's better because they get more of those kickouts. But at the same time, he does like to see goal, and sometimes you see that in winning teams. The players like Houston kind of rack up possessions. So this is an option, trading Clark out to a premium. I could also look at doing something like getting Cozzy traded out, especially if he gets dropped, and the one that a lot of people are looking at this week are Jiath. Now, this is kind of like, I could effectively, I'm trading Cozzy to Chapman, so trading around bench rookies, and then Young to Jiath in this situation. And Jiath's, I guess, a little bit like a Tex Walker proposition. So it's a mid-pricer that you hold for a little bit, and then you flip him for a premium in a few rounds. I think his break-even's like the mid-40s, which means he's got some cash to make. I mean, we've already missed the big jump in 66k. The things I don't like about Jiath are, I don't think he makes 150k more from here, which means that the trade kind of can fall flat in its face. I don't think he's a keeper. He doesn't have the safety or security of kickouts, which means like he's the type of player that could drop a 60 next week and really stunt his growth and make this a super awkward pick. So given I've already done the Tex Walker trade, I'm already down 2, and I'm doing one more with Young, so I'm at 27. I'm not sure I really want to spend another pick going to Jiath, but it is an option. And I think the reason why I wouldn't do the Houston trade is because I would love to get a midfield rookie off. Just one more. Like, I don't really want to have to field Powell every week, for example, or be able to pick between Powell and Berry, but not have to field both type thing. And then, I already mentioned Steele, someone that I want to have, but I think the other person is Walsh. He just looks the good. Like, I think he's a top 8 mid this year. He's going to play 22 games. He has every year so far. He's got the elite endurance, which definitely benefits this type of football that we're seeing this season. And he's put up 100s in all 3 games. I think Scotland had 2 losses or just 1. Regardless of whether it's 2 or 1. No, it's 2. They lost their first 2, right? He put up 100s in all 3 games, which is really promising. Like, you see Brayshaw, for example. One of the reasons why I was a little bit nervous about Brayshaw is he'd gone big in 2 games, but they were both against pretty average sides, and we hadn't seen him in a loss. And then, sure enough, in a loss on the weekend, just didn't look that good. So I'm sure he'll bounce back, and I'm sure he's going to be a decent option of the year. But Walsh I just like because he seems to get his no matter what, and the endurance really helps. So if I'm not going Clark to Houston, and like I don't have to do Clark, right? Like North in 2 weeks, still got cash to make, lowish break even. I can kind of miss on that. And Houston, I'm not 100% locked in, but I'm much more confident Walsh will be a top 8. So I think that's where I want to get to in a couple of weeks, and maybe I just hold this trade. But it does mean I leak points, and I risk kind of falling out of touch with the top 5-10 players in Supercoach, which puts me out of running for overall. So yeah, that's my big conundrum this week. What do I do with this other trade? If you have any ideas, let me know. If you're struggling with your own trades, hit me up below. If you want, I guess, advice or thoughts on any players, let me know. Otherwise, hope all is going well, and I will see you in the next one.